I have always had a fascination and a deep love for the ancient forests, for the forests that you imagine when you read a really good fantasy book. And now we live in an area here at Lake Femern where there actually are some of the very last ancient forests in Europe left. And over the summer I have spent months now figuring out where they are and visiting them. And today I really wanted to take you along with me on a 10 hours journey into one of the most beautiful ancient forests of this area. So I'm right now at the threshold of the ancient forest, and it's still, I mean, you can see around me, there are only young trees. This is 30, 40 years old or something. There are some trees on the ground that are seemingly much older. They must have been here perhaps before this forest was chopped down. But this is kind of at the edges of the ancient forest. I've already biked quite a long way, but there are farms here nearby, and they used to. It's in the circumference of the old copper mine. So this area is, as you can see, there's nothing really on the ground here. I mean, it's a wonderful forest. It's lovely here, but this will change quite a lot, the atmosphere, just a few hundred meters further in. So a bit of a hike. It's still easy to walk here. This is an area where it was easy to get to. The area we're going now is through a few marshes and into really, really hard terrain. So let's get going. Here I am at the very edge of the ancient forest. Behind me there are young trees, and in front of me here are ancient ones. You can see this is truly an area where it's just completely impassable. I'm going to walk in here now, being very careful where I step, going very slowly. And it's already a forest bird here. This really is it. You can see every tree here has just its own personality and history, and you can really see when we go in. You can see the first tree that we meet. You can see these huge old roots. Although the tree isn't very big, it's probably already very old, and you can just see the differences in the sizes. I'm gonna go on top of this little ridge here and get a better view of the area. Beautiful. We have a view of the entire, well, this small region. The special part here is that it's not just a little island of these kinds of rocks. It's the entire area all the way up to the mountain, and it's an incredible area to be in. And you can just see everything that has happened here for thousands of years back. I don't have words. It's such an incredible place. Now we are at the foot of the mountain. This is at least the first top, and I think that's going to be the goal of this journey. And from there we should have a view of the entire area. Now it's across a little stream here. It's so quiet here. It's just the wind. It's really a perfect autumn day. I'm really sweaty and tired from this journey. Trekking through these kinds of forests, it's really hard work, but it's so worth it. I'm really curious to see what's up in these slopes here. I've never been this far in before. So now I'm gonna make my way over these marshes and then up the hills, and I'm really looking forward to the view. Yeah, be a wetland. I have to walk completely different route to get to the mountain. But now I think I'm basically through the most difficult parts, and here the birch forest starts. It's so wonderful in these areas that you always have these little mini biotopes, and the second you have, when it gets wetter, you have these birch forests. And now in autumn, of course, you can really see them. And when we get up to the mountain, it's dry and the pine forest will truly start to take over. I love this part of any hike. It's when the world really opens up. I'm almost above the tree line and you can see the view from here. It's the Lake Femun where we live, and you can see the mountain tops with the dusting and snow on top. And just a little bit ahead now, I'm on the roof of the world. So this is always so amazing. Almost there. There. It's really getting cold and the wind is really strong, but it's an incredible view all the way around. I'm now on my way down from the mountain again, and here I really am in the absolute heart of the old forest, and everywhere around me are just old ancient trees. They're actually the dominating trees, as opposed to some of the forests we were in at the very beginning of this trip, where you can see it's full of small new trees. Here there are really very few new saplings. Most of the trees have found a place and they're just dominating the area everywhere here. You can really feel that the forest is settled. Every tree kind of has its place, and it's only really when a tree falls here at the end of its life cycle that there's any room for new ones. And so you have a much more open forest, with kind of small trees hoping at some point to take over. And you can just see these, I mean, of course, they're not big trees in the sense of most forests, but in this forest they are giants, and they're ancient, and they've been here. Some of these trees have been here for half a millennium, and I think it's really that feeling that I talk so much about. It's this, everything is settled and in place. And it's so quiet here. So now I'm gonna go down. We're still halfway up the mountain. Find a little, small little pond or a lake. Maybe take a little bath and have a little break. And just enjoy this forest. This is actually one of the areas that where there aren't huge rocks. It, for some reason, this area has kind of stood the test of time. And you can see, I think that's so wonderful with these old trees here. They grow in this spiral pattern, as you can see, and the older they get, the more they spiral. And by that you can really tell the age of these trees. Because as I said, it's not the size and the height here that really tells you the age. It's more how they grow. And you just get these amazing shapes and strange. Here you have a wonderful example of this spiral pattern. They can stand like this for hundreds of years after they've died. And here we have another giant next to the old one who's dead here, and then we have, they all have these personalities. I think the older they get, you really see what they've been through in life, and everything kind of leaves a mark. We see that there was a fire here long ago. There was a fire, and it came into the tree even, but the tree has survived. A part of it died, but then it still managed to live on, as opposed to this one. You can see this must have died not too long ago. This is how they look when they died very recently, and you can see all of the branches are still on the tree. And we can go and take a look at the root system. You see it's still quite a while ago, but yeah, here are all the roots, and the roots are really shallow actually. These are kind of pioneering species, and they can cling to almost anything. I think all of these trees here have their stories to tell, and when the forest just lives like this, it just stands and nothing happens. You can just read the history back in time for hundreds of years. And there's so many different trees. For instance, here we have one. They often die from the top down, and only the very bottom branches there are still alive. And you can see how the trees kind of have grown together and lean away from each other to catch the sun I know when I started painting, I painted these pine trees just in one way, kind of uniform. I often kind of thought they were a bit boring, but coming into a forest like this and just seeing that every one of them is so different. They kind of start off like this, like a young tree, and then things happen through the ages. I mean, like with all of us, we humans are a bit like that too. The older we get, the more history is kind of written into us. And I think that is beautiful. We're so obsessed with youth, but here you can just see how age lends beauty and history. I can't describe enough how magical this forest is. It's so open, and at the same time it's so full. Everywhere you just have these incredible statues. You can see here these two trees grew together. You can see all the branches here are on one side because this tree lent a shadow, so it had to grow and catch the sun from a different place. And now that tree has died, and so this tree is probably going to expand in other directions too now. I have all the different times here. If you go, and we can see actually even here. So here we have a tree just died, must have actually fallen this year. You can see from the storm here. This is really new. This must have happened, it's not long ago, it's maybe a year, maybe this year even. And you can see that the needles are still on, they still haven't fallen off. Then next to it we have one that must have died a very long time ago, where it's almost completely gone. And everywhere here it's like this. You can just walk for hours like this and read back history and time. Let's see what else we find. Now, making a fire in a forest like this is of course something I'm really careful about, and we're very much outside the fire season here. It's been raining, it's end of September, so rule-wise it's all fine. But the most important thing is I don't want to leave any traces here. Even a few people every year here, after hundreds of years, you're going to leave a mark. So I'm kind of at the outskirts of the ancient forest here. You can see the trees are a bit younger. It's not truly in the middle of the oldest part, even though it's still quite old here as well. So I'm just going to make a little hole here. Going to remove the moss. Just a little bit like so, that I can put it back again later. This is all completely wet, so there's no danger of any fire spreading. And I'm just going to remove a little area. I've taken this semi-old branch here, and I am not going to use this fire to get warm. I'm just gonna make a tiny little thing so that I can eat a little bit. So, coming to the end of the trip, or in some ways halfway. I've had a swim, which was really cold, but really refreshing as well. And just need a bite to eat and a little break. And then I'm gonna head home. The days are not as long as they used to be, and I have to be home before it gets too dark. It's been so nice to explore the area and to take you along. I'm quite tired. It took 4 hours to get there, I think, and now it's about at least a 3-hour hike back. But these trips into this kind of a forest, it's just so magical. I'm always so refreshed coming home again afterwards, full with new ideas and impressions. I'm gonna take a little bit of a different route back now, through some other areas that I know here. There are all of these pockets here with old growth and ancient forests, so I want to kind of hit those on the way back. So yeah, just a little break now, and then I'm gonna head back before it gets dark. Oh, it started to rain, but in some ways that only makes the mood here more magical. Now, from a kind of a fairy forest, it's changed into a troll forest instead. I am in the probably most impassable areas on my way home now. It's just gonna take a little bit longer, but these are some of my favorite areas. This is the only place that I really knew from last time I was here, and it's just these huge boulders that makes it almost completely impassable. Just have to be very careful where you tread, but it's absolutely magical. And now with the weather changing The rain coming and the fog rolling in, and it's getting a bit darker. The mood is absolutely magical here now. It's no wonder that that this forest has been left alone when you see how everything looks here. It's always a bit sad to leave the ancient forest. Now all of the trees are young again and we're back to the starting point. I think after having been on this trip now, if you now look around and you see there are no old trees, there's almost nothing on the ground. And even though it's a wonderful forest, it is not an ancient one. And it's always a bit like traveling in time, this, because you walk through forests like this and suddenly you're in this other realm. And then of course on the way out, you go in the other direction. I mean, these forests here where I am now, it's still incredibly wild and still kilometers away from the nearest farm, which is very far away from the nearest town. And still, it doesn't have that ancient feel. It's I think you can call it a cultural forest. It was chopped down for the old copper mines, and it's still a long time ago and a lot has grown back, but you'll always have that part of it which has its own beauty in a way. So as long as we have both, I am not going to complain. And now let's see if I can cross this stream. I really need to get home now. So let's take a bit of a risk. I've almost found my bike and I'm on my way home. So thank you all for joining me on this. It's almost been 10 hours of a hike now into our last ancient forests. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have more of a feel now of at least how the ancient forests here up north look.